Okay, so now it's a process of transferring everything over to the new compressor. Here's the new compressor and the old compressor for comparison. Looks like there's a wasp that wants to be in our video. I realized I forgot to do a 360 view of the old compressor. Ooh. There we go. Okay, let me put this in this orientation. And we're just going to make sure that we have the orientations of these matched, so for later reference we can just transfer them easily. First step is we're going to replace the oil in the new compressor. The new compressor already comes with oil inside of it, but that is just for lubrication. And sometimes it might even be too much oil. So the most important thing is to replace it with the right amount of oil. And in order to do that, we're going to take out these two, I guess caps now, because they don't really have any like function. Okay, so that's what the part looks like. I mean, you're not going to need this part later. And you'll notice as we take these off that there are O-rings under these parts. Okay, so for the O-rings, I just realized these are not the O-rings I'm talking about. You don't have to replace the O-rings on the compressor because they're new, but you will have to replace the O-rings on the lines like this one. In our case, usually we replace O-rings with these ones that we got from Harbor Freight. It's an entire kit with just an assortment of O-rings. But the thing is, these ones haven't been as thick as we wanted them to be in the past. Like when we were replacing them on Oscar's car, they weren't thick enough to provide a full seal. So actually for this purposes, we're just going to reuse the old one. And in our case, we don't know how long this car is going to last. We just want to replace this, be done with it. And you know, regardless of what we do to this compressor, the car might last only like a few more months, which is good enough for my dad. But for you guys should probably replace the O-ring. Also, my dad actually went to 3 auto parts stores, AutoZone, Advanced Auto Parts, and O'Reilly to find some O-rings. But he didn't find them at any of them, and it's because they are putting all their stock in the back for winter apparently, which is kind of weird. So he wasn't able to find any O-rings, so we ordered them online from Amazon. They were supposed to arrive yesterday, but we don't have them. So that's why we're using the old ones. And besides, we can just replace them later. On these ones, it's actually easier to replace them because they're much closer to the top. If we had to replace them on the compressor, then we might wait a bit. Anyway, getting back to the job at hand. This wasp might need to... Okay, so that wasp just doesn't care. Anyway, when we dump the oil, we want to dump it out of these holes. Not all the oil will come out at once. You need to crank the compressor in order to let the oil come out because, you know, the compressor has a clutch in it. And you can't just spin the pulley, you actually have to engage the clutch. So, where's that wasp? Oh, okay, so, okay, that's very interesting. I don't know what happened to that guy, but I hope he's okay. Okay, so most of it's coming out of the bottom right. And maybe that's because we didn't tilt the top one enough. But let me just make sure I have a good grasp on this, and then I'm going to spin the clutch. Now, when you spin this, make sure it's not just the pulley, because the pulley is free spinning. Make sure you actually engage the clutch and spin it. You hear that? Oh my god. Oh, there we go. It's coming out the top too. Every time I do this, it looks like it's coming out of the top left, so. Alright. Okay, so when you replace the oil, actually we put it into a measuring cup and saw how much we had. We have about 4 ounces. When you replace the oil, usually you want to replace as much as you drained out. And according to some sources we found, this car is supposed to hold 5.5 ounces in its compressor of oil. So because it looks like we also spilled some, we're going to replace about 4.5 ounces. So that should be good. We'll put this back in. You can see it's a bit cloudy because there are some contaminants in it. which is good that we drained it. And I'm going to wipe this. Okay. Okay. All right. And what we're going to replace it with is this new PAG 46. I don't know if I'll put a link in the description down below, but I guess I will if we have a link to it. And we want to measure 4.5 ounces. Now you can see it's clear, no contaminants in it at all. And I'm going to be doing this from my side, so it might not be accurate. Okay, maybe just a little bit more. That looks about 4.5 ounces, maybe a bit more than 4.5, but that's okay. As we pour this in, it's not going to all go in at once. Like I said, this needs to be cycled a bit. So we're going to pour it into the low pressure end. Wait until it gets to about a bit of an overflow, and then we're going to crank the clutch. As soon as I see it fill up, then I'm going to crank it. Okay, I don't see it filling up, but I'm just going to crank it just in case. Okay, I didn't expect it to go out that fast, but you saw it literally just like erupted, so you don't want to spin the clutch too fast. It's a good thing I'm demonstrating this so that when you guys do it, you don't make the same mistakes I do. So I'm guessing that when you drain it, you should probably drain it from the top right and crank it while you're doing it, because that looks like where most of it comes out. Okay, I'm gonna just crank it a few times for good luck. Ooh, I can see it like going up and down as I crank it. Whew, okay, too much. Now, if you drained all of the oil, the specs say that the compressor should be filled with 5.5 ounces of oil. So if you drained all the oil, that's how much you should be filling. Since we don't know if you drained all the oil, and since we measured 4 ounces, that's why we put 4.5. Because we're going to turn our attention to the new compressor, to the old compressor, we're going to put the caps back on, just so this doesn't, in case this like falls, it doesn't leak everywhere. And I mean, you could probably just screw it in by hand, but just in case. Okay, same here. Okay, all right, so let's put this aside. Take a look here. Okay, so now we're going to remove this part that's connected to the high pressure line, I believe, yes. And we're going to reconnect this to the new one. Now, also keep in mind that between the high pressure line and the middleman piece, there is an O-ring. So if you... Whew! Okay, so if you replace this, make sure you unscrew the connection between the line and the middleman and just replace that O-ring. Or actually, it might be... Actually, never mind. Anyway, let me just loosen this. I told you guys to replace that O-ring in between here and here, just out of intuition, because you know, usually when you replace a part, you replace the O-ring. But according to my dad, that's not entirely accurate, because if we just don't separate these, the rubber inside won't be exposed to the air, and the seal will be maintained. So you don't necessarily have to get rid of this, replace the O-ring in between here. Okay. Anyway, we have the hex screw or bolt taken out, and now we have the new part here. You can see that under is an O-ring. We don't have to replace that O-ring because it's already on the new part. So just for maintaining the right, just to make sure we put it in the right place, we're just going to make sure that these are in the same orientation. We took this part out of the bottom left, so we're going to put it in the bottom left of the new one. But before we replace the line, we're going to move all the other parts. We're going to remove all the other parts on the old compressor. So that includes this plate here. If you compare it to the new plate, to the new compressor, you can see that there is no plate on it right now. And it looks like this part is where the wire or cable harness is actually fastened onto it because of this part right here. And we're just going to take that out. There is a screw on the side of it that you just need to take a Phillips head and loosen. And there we go. There's the screw. We'll put it here just for safekeeping. And now we should be able to take off the piece. So when you install this, it looks like it goes under the rest of these pieces. So when you screw this out, just put this in first, put that on top of it, then put the screw in. Okay, so I cleaned this up with the rag. We're going to loosen this old one. We're going to loosen the new screw. And then, this is way shorter compared to the old one. Very interesting. And then I'm going to place this on in the same orientation. This goes on first, then this goes on. And I'm assuming that this piece goes in between these two plates. So there we go. Align those two. Thread the needle. There we go. Yeah, that's strange. This wire actually did not have a its own what's it called, guide attached to it. As you can see on this one, it is completely like standalone. Okay, so it looks like we have to replace with the old screw because the new one just is too short. So let me just insert that. Like I said, the old one did not come with a guide to secure it to this side of the compressor. Maybe that broke off with the old one, but at least with this new one, you can see that it keeps it pretty secure. And now we're going to turn our attention to the bottom of the compressor. When we took this out, we had to disconnect a wire from this, a wire harness from this plate. So we're just going to take that bolt out. And when we install it onto the new compressor, we just want to make sure that is in the same orientation. So, like this. Oh yeah. And while we're here, we might as well install the rest of the bolts. So, same bolts, and the last one is right here. Okay, now we can install the high pressure line. So, put that to the side. The high pressure line is installed on this side. So we're going to take out that cap. And install the new one. Take the okay. So you want to notice how the shape of the you want to notice the alignment of the line and the screw hole, and then just insert it like so. Take your old bolt and install it, or you can install the old one in case you want to retain your Allen wrench abilities. Do we want to retain our okay, so I conferred with my dad. We're going to use the Allen wrench bolt or screw. Still not sure if this is a bolt or a screw on this one. And while we tighten it, we want to make sure that this is held properly. Hold it so that it's completely flush to the face of the compressor, so that when it's tightened, that seal is retained. And there we go. I can't tighten it anymore. And I'm sure that and if you over tighten it, I'm sure that the seal would not work properly. And if you under tighten it, again, the seal would not work properly. As you can see, now the Allen wrench is tightened, and we are at about that stage to reinstall the compressor. Okay, so funny story. We tried to dremel out the nut that was stuck, or that was stripped before, and we even got down to the line. So we weren't able to take it out because it kind of looks like it's welded in. And I guess what we're going to do now is we're just going to halfway install the compressor, put this on, secure it, then we're going to fully install the compressor. Hopefully we didn't dremel all the way into the line. I mean, when I said dremel into the line before, I meant like we got all the way down here. Hopefully we didn't like cut any of the line here, because replacing the line would cost a lot. It wouldn't be complicated. You literally just have to take it out from here, but it would cost a lot. And actually, we don't even need the AC right now. We only need the car for winter because it's an all-wheel drive. So we don't have to replace the AC now. We can always replace it next year. But like I said, we don't really have too much faith in this car. We just need it for the winter. So like I said, we're just going to install this, put the tighten the Allen wrench in, and we're going to do it before we fully put the thing on, because the Allen wrench, I mean the bolt is already in a very weird place. And then we're going to install the compressor. Alright, so I think we're going to do the installation in the next segment, because this video is already getting kind of long. So I'm Aiman, thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, look at other videos on EyeOnAiman. Check out the installation video if you're interested on how to install the compressor, but I'm sure it's like the reverse of removal. We're just going to have that little added caveat with the Allen wrench, and I'll see you there. But for now, signing out. Peace.